The zipper of the tent rasped like a confession in the pre-dawn hush. And there it was, his hand on my thigh, heavy with the weight of everything we'd never said. Alex's breath hitched against my neck, warm and ragged, carrying the faint pine tang of the woods and the sharper bite of whiskey from hours before. We'd been best friends since high school in that sleepy Ohio town. The kind where Friday nights meant bonfires and stolen beers. Where boys like us learned early to punch first and feel later. But this was the line we'd towed for years, blurred now in the dim glow of a dying flashlight. I froze, heart slamming like a bass drum in my chest. Jordan, me. The quiet one with the books and the lesson plans, 26. Teaching English to kids who didn't give a damn about Hemingway. And him, Alex, 20. All broad shoulders and smoke-scarred lungs from hauling hoses into infernos as a firefighter in Cleveland. We'd planned this camping trip to get away, he said. From the grind. From the exes who'd left us both hollow. But as his fingers tightened, tracing the seam of my jeans with a tremble I could feel through the denim, I knew it wasn't escape we were after. It was collision. His lips found mine first. Urgent. Tasting of salt and regret. The tent canvas side around us, wind whispering through the pines like it was urging us on. I pulled him closer, my hands fisting in his faded fire department tee. The fabric soft from 100 washes, smelling of his soap and the faint char of old blazes. We moved like we'd rehearsed it in dreams, bodies slotting together on the lumpy sleeping bags, the air thick with the earthy musk of damp soil seeping up from below. The sigh, broken, vibrated against my skin as he pressed in, all heat and hesitation melting into something fierce. My gasp caught in my throat, fingers digging into his back, feeling the ridges of scars from a warehouse fire 2 summers back. The one that nearly took him. Built slow at first, tentative kisses turning to nips, to the scrape of teeth and the slick slide of sweat-slicked skin. The zipper pouch of my pack crinkled under my elbow, forgotten trail mix spilling out like confetti for our unraveling. An owl hooted, distant and mocking, while crickets scratched their endless rhythm. It was just us, his weight pinning me, protective and possessive, my legs wrapping around him like vines claiming a trunk. He whispered my name, Jordan, like a prayer, voice cracking on the edges, and I shattered under him, the world narrowing to the pulse in my veins and the way he held me after. Chest heaving, arms a cage I never wanted to escape. Dawn crept in like a thief, painting the tent walls gold through the mesh window. Birds chirped their wake-up call, sharp and insistent, slicing through the haze. Alex stirred first, his arm still slung over my waist, thumb absently stroking my hip bone. I turned my head, catching the way sunlight caught the freckles across his nose, the faint shadow of exhaustion under his eyes from too many night shifts. For a heartbeat, it was perfect, 2 guys from the heartland, tangled in the afterglow of what we'd both craved but never named. Then he pulled back, sat up sharp, like he'd been burned. His eyes, hazel, flecked with green like the forest floor, darted to the tent flap, then back to me, wide with something feral. Panic. Shit, he muttered, scrubbing a hand over his face, stubble rasping against his palm. The air turned thick, heavy with the cooling sweat on our skin and the acrid twist of unspoken fear. I reached for him, fingers brushing his knee. Alex. No homo, he blurted, the words tumbling out like gravel, rough and rehearsed. He yanked his shirt down, avoiding my gaze, the zipper of his jeans echoing too loud in the sudden silence. That was. We were just messed up. The booze, the dark, doesn't mean shit. His laugh was forced, a bark that echoed hollow off the nylon walls. But his hands shook as he laced his boots, the leather creaking under his grip. It hit me like a gut punch, the denial, sharp as the chill morning air slipping through the flap. No homo. The phrase we tossed around as kids. A shield against the whispers in the locker room. The sideways glances when we'd linger too long in the truck after games. But now, after the way he'd mapped my body like a lifeline, after the murmurs in the dark that sounded like, "I need you," it carved deeper than any fire scar. I sat up, sleeping bag pooling around my waist, the rough wool itching against my bare back. "Alex, come on." That wasn't. "Drop it." Jordan. He was on his feet now, ducking low in the tent, shoulders hunched like he was bracing for a blast. The scent of last night's campfire clung to him. Smoke and a reminder of the dangers he faced daily, but this terrified him more. He zipped the flap open, flooding us with light and the crisp bite of dew-kissed ferns. The world stirred, leaves rustling in the breeze. A squirrel chattering judgment from the branches. He stepped out, boots crunching on pine needles, and I followed, pulling on my hoodie, the fleece soft but no match for the raw ache blooming in my chest. We broke camp in silence, the canvas folding with snaps that punctuated the void between us. Coffee brewed on the portable stove, its bitter steam curling up, but he barely sipped, eyes fixed on the horizon where mist clung to the hills like a shroud. Ohio's backcountry, rugged ridges and hidden hollows. The kind of place where secrets buried themselves in the soil. We'd hiked these trails as teens, dreaming of escaping to the city lights of Chicago or New York. Places where guys like us could breathe without apology. But life had roots here. My classroom in the local high school, walls lined with dog-eared classics, his station house, sirens wailing through the night like banshees. By midday, we were on the trail back, packs heavy on our shoulders, the sun slicing through the canopy in golden shafts that warmed my face but did nothing for the cold knot in my gut. He walked ahead, strides long and purposeful, but I caught the glances he stole over his shoulder, warring with himself. Sweat beaded on my forehead, mixing with the faint salt of dried tears I hadn't let fall. The path wound past a creek, water gurgling over smooth stones, and I stopped, boots sinking into the mud. "Alex, wait." He halted, back to me, fists clenched at his sides. The breeze carried the loamy scent of moss and wild mint, grounding me even as my voice cracked. "You held me like you meant it. Like I'm not just some bro you crash with after shifts." That wasn't nothing. He turned slow, face etched with lines that aged him beyond his years, the weight of the job, the family expectations back in town, his dad the retired cop who'd raised him on stoic silences and man-up mantras. "Jordan, His voice trailed, a sigh escaping like steam from a kettle. He stepped closer, close enough I could smell the cedar of his cologne cutting through the woods. Up close, his eyes were storms, turbulent, on the brink. I can't be that guy. Not here. Not with everyone watching." The creek babbled on, indifferent, and I felt the pull of it all, the friendship we'd forged in the fires of youth, tempered by losses, my mom to cancer when I was 15, his buddy crushed in a rig collapse last year. We been each other's anchor, late night calls when the darkness pressed too hard. But this was the truth we'd skirted, the spark that could ignite or incinerate. Then what was it? I pressed, voice low, the words tasting like ash. A leaf fluttered down, brushing his shoulder, and he caught it absently, crumpling it in his fist. It was real, he admitted finally, the confession ripping free like a bandage. His shoulders sagged, the fight draining out. It was the most real I've felt in years. But saying it out loud? That changes everything. My crew, they'd razz me forever. Family. Shit. He looked at me then, raw and unguarded, the man who'd pulled me from my own wreckage a dozen times. I held you because I could not. But no homo? That's the lie I tell myself so I don't lose it all. The words hung there, heavy as the humidity rising with the afternoon heat. Crickets hummed a lazy chorus. And somewhere distant, a truck rumbled on the highway, reminder of the world waiting to judge. I stepped into his space, close enough our breaths mingled, and cupped his jaw, thumb tracing the pulse jumping there. Then don't say it. Not to me. We don't have to label it. Don't undo us. He leaned into my touch, eyes closing for a beat, a shudder running through him like aftershock. When they opened, there was no armor left, just Alex, the boy who'd shared his first smoke with me under the bleachers, the man who'd fight flames but feared his own heart. Okay, he whispered, voice gravel rough. Okay. We didn't kiss, not there on the trail, not with the sun bearing witness. But as we walked on, his hand brushed mine, fingers linking for a stolen second before pulling away. It was enough. A promise etched in the spaces between, like the scars on his skin, proof we'd survived the burn. Back in town that night, porch light flickering on his mom's old Victorian, he clapped my shoulder at the truck door, bro style, for the neighbors peeking through curtains. See you at the game Friday? He asked. Grin crooked but eyes steady. Wouldn't miss it. I watched his taillights fade down the gravel road, the crunch of tires echoing my heartbeat. Normal? Maybe not yet. But the way he held me, that lingered, ember in the dark, waiting for the right wind to roar into flame. And in the quiet of my apartment, posters of Paris peeling at the edges, I let myself hope. For the day he dropped the shield, step into the light. Because love like ours? It doesn't unzip easy. But once it's out, it reshapes the whole damn tent.